Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues. With this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 1 of the anime series Akagami no Shirayuki-hime, or Snow White with the Red Hair. And much as I speculated going into having seen the PV and everything like that, this was a series that really touched that vein of my lifelong fandom of like Disney films, Disney princess films, all those things. And there are elements to this anime. I mean, it's an anime through and through, but the feeling, the look, and the vibe of it just, carry certain Disney aesthetics to it that speak to my heart as a lifelong animation fan and Disney movie fan. Things like, at least with the architecture, calling out of, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, Beauty and the Beast, the character of Belle, who is very much frustrated with her provincial life and everything. And this isn't as sing-songy, it's not sing-songy at all, but it has a really smart and intelligent aspect to it, very much falling in line of sort of a marriage of an anime style and a Disney film style, with of course the main character Shirayuki, who is basically she's an apothecary or an herbalist. She's taking care of the sick and the injured. She is using herbal remedies that she concocts on her own volition, that she's learned to do and everything. And so she is kind of the doctor of this little village or this town, whatever you want to call it, country. And basically this coincides with the prince, this really stuck-up, idiotic character by the name of Raj, who is asking an informant, a townsman informant, in that very, calling back on the whole Snow White aesthetic, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beautiful, attractive woman in the land? And this guy says it's got to be that girl, the one with the very rare, seldom seen, specially red hair, this vibrant red hair, and that is Shirayuki for all intents and purposes. And so his chief guard, after learning this information, shows up at her shop as it's nearing closing time one night, and he's basically like, the prince wants you as his concubine, or else you have to show up at the kingdom tomorrow and, or suffer the fate of 1,000 deaths or whatever. It's left implied. He doesn't say, oh, you'll suffer. You have to report to the kingdom now because the prince has put this want out there. And I love that she very much... she's kind of, trying to live her own story. There's a dialogue, element to it where she's talking about life is like a story and I want to be able to beat my own path. I want to be able to write my own life and, make those choices on the direction it'll flow and everything and have that freedom, the freedom of choice. And so she very smartly, I thought, she's getting prepared overnight all of these different herbal remedies that, are all the townsfolk she sees day in and day out. The ailments she's familiar with, their houses are suffering, and she gets them ready to be sent by post, and then she takes off. But not before, of course, cutting off a majority of her red locks and leaving it tied on the windowsill as a sort of F you to the, Prince Raj guy. And then she does effectively make off, spirit away in the middle of the night. Now, she finds this abandoned house that she doesn't actually know is abandoned, but she's thinking maybe I can stop here for lodgings overnight before I continue my journey. And she's trying to escape her country and go to the next one over, but there's nobody in the house, so of course she falls asleep. And I love that she's sort of rustled awake in the next morning by these three other characters, one being the character of Zen, who comes, careening over the wall. He's trying to look all majestic and awesome and badass. And as soon as their eyes lock, it's like thunderstruck. It's like love at first sight. He is bewildered. His foot gets caught. He goes careening to the ground. He injures his arm. And as his friends catch up, they're asking, are you okay? And everything like that. And she, being a healer, an herbalist and an apothecary, she's ready with sort of a salve to put on his arm when she realizes he's injured. Now, he pulls his sword. It's still sheathed, but he's facing it, pointing it at her. And he's like, well, I don't know if I can trust you. There are some squirrely people about, and maybe it's poison, this, that, and the other thing. And he has a real sort of emphasis on a fear of being poisoned, and you're not quite sure what that's all about. But I love that she is forthright to the point where she grabs his sword, smacks her own arm, and makes it red like his arm is, and then she puts the salve on her arm to show that it's not poisoned. And of course she then, they basically go into this house and they just sort of hang out there. You got the two friends playing chess. But I love that they're getting to know each other, and Zen, in this case, is getting to understand this girl, there's something special about her. Of course, she decides after things get a little awkward to go take a walk in the woods, and he decides to come along and everything. And you see that his friends are actually watching. They're sort of following them, hiding out in trees to see what's going on. Again, you're not quite sure what's up with all of that, but the dialogue then turns over to her explaining what is, up with her, essentially why she's on the run, how this guy, this prince who she doesn't name right off the bat, she talks about him eating silver coins and being, learning to speak in the red light district. So he's very sort of just jerk face kind of guy, for him to want her in that way, be my concubine or else kind of framework. And of course, Zen is, he's incredulous at that, and he absolutely loves that great soliloquy of leaving her hair behind as a big F you to this guy before making her journey to this other country and everything. And there's talk of, I love the talk of the color, of red being the color of fate, and you can change your fate, and that kind of plays into the dialogue, her own internal monologue about, wanting to redirect her fate, have the freedom to choose wherever she may, whatever path she may follow. And basically, as they're going back to this vacant house, they find a basket that has the same ribbon she tied up that lock of hair and left behind, which signifies this is probably an ill omen. It's a basket full of apples, and if you're familiar with the Snow White story, once again, that aesthetic comes to the fore because these apples, as it were, are poisoned. Zen suspects as much when they get some more clarification about it is the Prince Raj guy and everything, and how squirrely and jerk-faced he is, and it seems to rub Zen the wrong way. And then he, reacts alarmingly when she says it looks like the apples are starting to go bad. He just grabs one, not even out of her hand, just he grabs her arm and he takes a bite of it. Sure enough, these apples are poisoned, and it's something he's looking for. Once again, we have that idea that it's something, the idea of being poisoned is foremost in his mind. And so, of course, you have Raj's guard showing up and being like, oh, how unfortunate. It's the guy that was poisoned and not you, Shirayuki. Come along, talk to my master, and maybe they'll give you the antidote and all this stuff. So, of course, you see just again how squirrely and jerk-faced that Prince Raj guy is, because he's like, you agree to be my concubine? This is all your fault. The rumor, as rumor has it, all along our country, all in our town, this is your fault for, causing me problems and everything. You didn't agree to be my concubine in the first place, so, of course, I'm losing face, I'm losing popularity, it's all on you. You now have to agree to be my concubine, and not only will things work out and I'll be happy, but maybe I'll give you the antidote and all this stuff. And just as she's about to reluctantly agree to this because she wants to save Zen's life, he comes crashing through the door, sword in hand, Prince Valiant that he may be. That kind of aesthetic, I loved it because he puts this Prince Raj in his place. And then he goes on to introduce the fact that he is the second prince of the neighboring country. So, bite me, fanboy. You know what I mean? In effect, and they scare the bejesus out of Prince Raj because they force the apples on him and, all this kind of stuff. I just really loved how this played out. And it almost felt like this entire episode almost felt like, well, this could have been the whole series in one sort of fell swoop. I can't imagine where they're going to go from here as they chase Prince Raj off. And there's that great dialogue, once again, calling back to the idea. You have Shirayuki, who's basically comparing herself to the poison apples. The hair color is red. In our encounter, it was almost an extension of myself that you were poisoned, she's saying to Zen. And he's like, look, this can be, you can think of it that way, but this could be the hallmark of our future, of a shared path together. From this moment on, we both choose what fate lies, in front of us. And so there's that great moment where they grasp each other's hands, and you're left with this thought that Shirayuki is going to follow a path that's more beneficial, that's so much greater than she ever set her sights on before, and it's going to be, hand in hand with Zen. But then, of course, you get to the PV, and it's like she's maybe going to be spiriting away again. Maybe this life that now lays ahead of her, it's going to be something she's not necessarily ready for. it's going to be very interesting to see. But I absolutely loved the look, the just awesome beauty. I thought the entire, animation aspect of this series was beautiful, from the backgrounds to the character designs. I love the way the characters have a rapport, even when you have a stinky jerk face like the Raj character. He still has a personality, and it's still funny how they get him all squirrely and running off, in the heat of all of this. And that sort of majesty that, Prince Zen, as we find out, carries himself with. He's a very benevolent, sort of heroic character, and I love the comic relief that represents his two friends, as you find out are kind of bodyguards to him, and just the charm of Shirayuki herself. You see that she is an empowered character, and she is very much just chomping at the bit, calling back once again on that Beauty and the Beast, the Belle aesthetic of being fed up with just the ramifications and the surrounding life she's familiar with, and wanting to break the mold and wanting to break free of that and explore an awesome future, all that potential that she could have. And if that means, crossing over to another country entirely, getting away from the evil and the malice that is the Prince Raj character, which I don't think she will be completely rid of. I think he'll probably be a through point of this series. I'm just on board. I really enjoyed this episode. I just absolutely loved it. Again, calling in all that lifelong love of animation and Disney movies and the Disney princess films. This definitely had that vibe, but it also married with my love of anime and, Japanese animation, that whole flavor and style of that. It was like a bridge between the two, this series. And that's just the first episode, so I can't wait to see where the story goes from here. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 1 of Akagami no Shirayuki-hime, or, of course, Snow White with the red hair. And, so yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well. I'll catch you all later. Peace.